What is up, ladies and gentlemen? But most of all, you ladies out there, thanks for clicking on another episode of Break the Silence. I am your host, Cyborg. Is Joel Embiid the best player in the NBA? Split count! We just got done watching one of the most electric basketball games of the NBA season between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Philadelphia 76ers. This game was in Cleveland, and the Philadelphia 76ers won 118-109 behind monster performances from Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Tyrese Maxey. Their big three. This was a highly impressive game from the 76ers. They went in a hostile environment into Cleveland and took home that W. That's 6 wins in a row from the Sixers. They're tied with the Boston Celtics in the loss column in the Eastern Conference for that number 2 seed, which will be vitally important when it comes to the playoffs. We're talking about a potential Game 7 being in Philadelphia versus being in Boston. That could be really, really important for the Sixers. So tonight's game was huge. All these games are huge for the rest of the season and making sure that you pass the Celtics and get to that 2 seed that you want to get to if you're Philadelphia. Joel Embiid is on a historic tear and having an overall historic season. For the season, he's averaging, let me get this pulled up here, but he's leading the league in scoring. He's averaging 33.4 points a game, 10 rebounds, 4.1 assists, and 2.7 stock, steals, and blocks together. That's highly, highly impressive. We're going to break down him. We're going to talk about the Sixers team as a whole, what I like from them. And we're also going to talk about this game tonight. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're up over 1,100 subscribers. We are grinding like crazy. We're growing like crazy. And as the playoffs come among us, we're going to be doing videos every single night. And we're going to break down a ton of games. It's going to be a ton of fun. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. You don't want to miss any of that. So I want to start with this. The first time I ever watched Joel Embiid play, I was actually at college, and I was in my dorm room, and I sat down, watched some basketball, and I had never watched this guy play. He was highly touted out of college, obviously had some issues with injury, and you sit down and you get a chance to really watch this guy in the NBA and what he brings to the table. And I remember immediately texting my dad at halftime of that game. I have never seen a more skilled big man than Joel Embiid. And as you can see here, I got a Hakeem Olajuwon jersey. I'm a huge Hakeem Olajuwon fan. Just all he did for the game, how skilled he was, what he brought to the game as far as a big man. I think he's one of the most underrated players ever. But when people used to talk about Hakeem and some of the moves he would make, the dream shake, all the things he was able to do on the court, when I watched Embiid for the first time, I was visualizing exactly what people used to say about Hakeem Olajuwon. This is a big man, an absolutely dominating force that has the ability to stretch the floor, can shoot free throws at an incredible clip, and can score from anywhere. He is also dominating on the defensive end of the floor, and the whole game can be dominated by this one player. Joel Embiid has the potential to be the best player in the NBA. He has the potential to win multiple championships and lead his team to the promised land. He's stayed fairly healthy, honestly, over the last few years. You know, this year, I think tonight was his 55th game, which is pretty solid. He'll end up finishing over 60 games on the season. That's not bad. You know, you'll be pushing that 65, 70 mark. That's a pretty solid amount of games. So injury concerns starting to go away. And when we get to the playoffs, what we want to see from Embiid and what I really, really hope we see are these same dominating performances. Because yes, we've seen them in prime time. And yes, we've seen them in big moments. But having the opportunity to see them on the biggest stage in the NBA playoffs would be fantastic. Now, obviously, we watched he had a very good series against the Toronto Raptors a couple years ago when Kawhi hit that game winner. Jimmy Butler was on the team. Ben Simmons was on the team. So Joel Embiid has not been a total dud in the playoffs. I think that's a little overstated. I also think when you're looking at this season, we are hearing a lot of controversy surrounding Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And when it comes to this MVP race, one of the things that's so great is that a lot of years the MVP is pretty consensus. When you get to the end of the year, it's pretty clear, hey, this guy is clearly the MVP, or this guy's clearly the MVP. This year, it's great that we've had a lot of conversation about, oh, maybe this guy was the front runner. It looked like Jason Tatum was the front runner through 20 games. Then Nikola Jokic was really good in the middle of the season. Now Embiid's finishing the season really strong. So you have all these guys that are playing at a really high level. And I think that some of the discourse and some of the things we're talking about and some of the vitriol we're hearing has almost taken away from the greatness of some of these players and some of the joy that you get when you watch Joel Embiid, because you almost can't. If you're someone that is a Nikola Jokic fan, you almost have to end up hating on Joel Embiid, even though he's super awesome. If you're an Embiid fan, you end up hating on Nikola Jokic. And I just don't like the way that that's all together. I think that we should celebrate what all these players do so well and the historic things that we're seeing from all these players, these big men. When you look at the NBA in the 2010s, one of the things that we started to see was the drift away from the big man. We started to see obviously wings have always dominated. Your Larry Bird, Magic, Michael Jordan. Magic was kind of a guard, but he was a tall guard. You had Kobe, LeBron. Kind of your wings kind of dominated the NBA for a very long time. The big man at times would be very good. When you had Hakeem winning 2 titles, when you had Shaq winning 4 titles with the Lakers and then 1 with the Heat, or 3 with the Lakers, 1 with the Heat. And then you had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, obviously Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. But then you started to see it really drift away to the Steph Curry, obviously LeBron James, Kevin Durant, guys like that who are wing players. And as we are getting into mid-2020s, where we're hitting right now, 2023, we're starting to see the game shift back to big men who can do so many things so well. Giannis Antetokounmpo is not only dominant and strong, but he can dribble the ball up the court and he can run at you at full force. Joel Embiid can shoot, dribble, pass, defend. He can do all those things at a high level, and then he can also take you down to the post and you can do nothing about it. Nikola Jokic is able to do so many things well. He's one of the best passing big men we've ever seen. He can score from anywhere on the court, take some of the weirdest looking shots and they go in. So all these guys are awesome, and I just think we need to take more time celebrating and appreciating what we have in the NBA right now. Tonight's game, the Philadelphia 76ers won because they dominated the glass. They won tonight's rebounding battle 46-33. Now again, some of that's because Jarrett Allen was out and it kind of relied on Evan Mobley to do almost all of the rebounding. But all in all, it was because Joel Embiid went out there and had 18 rebounds. One of the things that I think is so encouraging with the 76ers is James Harden is playing fantastic basketball. James Harden was my favorite player in the NBA when he was with the Houston Rockets, especially when he was on that tear where he was scoring 40. He was averaging 37, 38 a game for a long, long period of time. And James Harden was able to do so many things. And I think he's so unique because I can't think of an NBA player that's had the ability to be the best scorer in the NBA and then transition to one of the best playmaker passers in the NBA is truly mind-boggling. On the season, James Harden is averaging 22 points a game and 11 assists. 11 assists is elite level passing that not very many guys hit, especially in today's NBA. So what James Harden's been able to do is highly impressive. And I think if you get to the playoffs and you see Joel Embiid play at his best, Harden play at his best, this team absolutely has a chance against anybody. And I think when you're looking at the NBA as a whole, the Western Conference is crazy. Who knows what's going to happen over there? But the Sixers, you got to be looking at this as you got to find a way to beat the Boston Celtics in round 2 and the Milwaukee Bucks in round 3. Those are the 2 challenges that you got to get past in order to reach your ultimate goal. Because once you get to the NBA Finals, I absolutely feel like whoever comes out of the Eastern Conference is going to be the favorites. So tonight, so all in all, the Sixers team playing very, very good basketball. Tyrese Maxey gave you 23 points tonight. One of the other things I want to point out, George Niang coming off the bench I thought was a big contributor in this game, and not really for the whole game, but there was a stretch where the Cavs were scoring and making a run, and George Niang hit 2 big threes. I think it was in the third quarter, might have been early fourth, but right there in that stretch that really, I think, kept the Sixers right there on the Cavs' heels, and to where the point they were able to take the lead and finish that game out. So they have guys who are making big shots and big moments, and that's not even counting Tobias Harris, who didn't play very well tonight, but has the potential to be a very good basketball player. So this Philadelphia 76ers team has a very, very interesting roster with a great chance to make a run. One of my little concerns is their bench depth isn't always great. Tonight they got 19 points from your bench, which is flatly, it's not a lot. It's not enough probably when it comes down to the playoffs. I always say this, you don't have to be the top bench team in the league because honestly, most of the teams that have the best benches are some of your worst teams in the NBA, but most of your good teams are right in the middle of the pack, meaning you get real contributions from your guys off the bench and having depth. If Joel Embiid would have fouled out tonight, or Tobias Harris had 4 fouls, James Harden had 4 fouls, if one of those guys foul out, you have to make sure that you have guys that can come in off the bench and can play that role until you're able to get those guys back in and, not allow the game to fall apart. And the bench certainly did not let the game fall apart tonight. I'm not saying that, but all in all, when it comes to the playoff times and you're looking at this squad, that's one of the things that you got to pay attention to. So the 76ers are right on the tails of the Boston Celtics. You got to feel great. If you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, you put up a real fight tonight, and you honestly, one of the things that I love if you're them is that you got a big game from Caris LeVert. LeVert has been wildly inconsistent to say the least, for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And, they need some bench scoring. They're another team that really struggles when it comes to the bench. Tonight, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland didn't play excellent. Evan Mobley was okay, gave you 13, 12, and 5. I really like Evan Mobley. I really like the 4 best guys on this Cavs team. But when Caris LeVert's not playing well, this bench looks really, really weak. So big game for him. All in all, this was a very good basketball game, very entertaining to watch. And I think that going into the playoffs, both of these teams got to feel like, hey, when we're at our best and when Joel Embiid, James Harden is dominating the way that they did tonight and the way that they have over this last few weeks, they can compete with anyone and they can absolutely beat anyone in the NBA. And I can't wait to watch them in the playoffs. I really hope Embiid finally gets that playoff run that we've been waiting for. And that's all we got for you as far as this game goes tonight. Appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Cyber go.